Expert Professor Kyra, and I'm standing for a video, which I know is not very common, but I haven't done it in a while. Kind of want to do it this time because the topic I want to talk about kind of brings back a lot of things that I've talked about in the past with a new little spin to it. So, something was brought to my attention my last weekend of work. So, for those who may not know, outside of me being a fursuiter, I am a professional mascot. I do work for a professional sports team. So I have insight on a lot of mascot stuff that the normal average person doesn't have. And I like to help other people kind of understand the job and kind of get a taste of what it's like. So, I've done tons of videos about it. I've talked about it many times, different ways. But something came up last weekend that I kind of want my own explanation and sort of, how do I say this? How I've experienced this particular topic. And that would be, what's it like being a woman in sports as a mascot? That's what I want to talk about today. I have talked about being a woman as a fursuiter and stuff before, and in the furry fandom and everything, but like, what about with sports mascots specifically? The reason I want to talk about this is because, as a woman myself, I am woman, it makes the job very interesting. Difficult at times, but very interesting. I kind of want to start out by saying I do love my job. That's why I want to talk about it. Because I want to inform others about what it's like being a woman in the field of mascotting that is pretty male-dominated. That, for starters, kind of makes it a little bit difficult if you're looking to get into the line of work. Especially with sports. I should specify men's sports. It's very difficult. The reason that I have my job is because my wonderful friend recommended me, and I got accepted right away because I worked with them. I got the job because they vouched for me and was like, yep, they have done a bunch of mascot stuff for the past, years. So yeah, you should hire them because you don't have to train them. I've learned a lot in the now 3 seasons I have worked. That being a mascot is challenging. Being a female as a mascot is even more challenging. And why is that? Well, I've talked a lot about different experiences I've had. It's how I've been doing a lot of these videos in the time that I've done them. I talk about my experience, and kind of we go from there. The reason I bring it up again is because a lot of them were because I was a woman. Let me explain. So, I know someone, I can't really get into detail, that was a part of the whole mascot thing that I do partake in and still partake in, who thought it'd be fun, for some reason, to, after one of the events we were doing, met up with them kind of right before we changed to say hi while we're in character. Well, while my handler was turned, which this kind of pisses me off, while my handler was turned and occupied taking pictures with another one of our mascots, this individual decided it'd be a great idea to do, like, hey, let's have a hug, and not think much of it, but then they did the old grab, and they squeezed as hard as they could. The really crazy thing is, sometimes things happen by accident. Sometimes your hand ends up in places it shouldn't. That was intentional, because the particular suit I was wearing has, like, the little, like, hula hoop, and it's pushed away from the body. So if you were trying to make contact with my physical body, you would have to put a lot of pressure to grab me. And this particular individual did that. And they grabbed my ass very hard. I was uncomfortable. I immediately went and changed. Haven't really done much of that sort of work since. Because, yeah, it was weird. But you learn how to do better. Now, from that particular experience, so I think this individual knew I was a girl. They never had met me out of suit before, but they knew that I was a girl. That does not justify any actions. But ever since that day, and this is good reason for me standing, but you keep seeing me moving around, it's because of the tail. I don't really wear the tail very often, but I wanted to for this video because I just spent good money on it and went through hell to get it. So, what do I do because of that particular ass-grabbing incident? Well, anytime that an individual is taking a photo and their arm is around me or here or wherever they are, or hugging, I pay very close attention to their arm movements. Where are they putting their arms? Most people, when they want to hug, are going to hug up here. They're going to be around the upper back. Little kids, they're going to be down here, so you may want to, like, get to their level. But I never let anyone put their arms below my waist. So, for photo opportunities, because I do this all the time now, if I am the pretty little mascot, look at me, I'm a mascot, doing my thing. Well, you want to come over and have a picture. Yeah, sure, come over. So if you're, let's say, here, you are standing right here, okay? Your arm will probably come around my waist. Well, I have done this now for probably well over almost 2 years. Whenever someone does that, my arm comes like this. So you can't really see it. My arm is extended. So then their arm is on top of mine. So I can have control of where they're putting their arm. It's very subtle, and a lot of people don't really notice it, and they don't even like pay any attention. But for me, I have full control of where your arm goes, because if it's like this, and say this is my extended arm, and this is your hand, if you try to go down, I can push your arm back up. I should never have had to have learned how to do that, but unfortunately, if you want to have this kind of job, you're going to have to learn to do the things that are going to protect you the most. And for me, keeping my arm out, and also, I keep my arms out because I know some people think every mascot is a pedophile, which that is 100% not true. So I try not to make contact as much as possible. Hugs are one thing, people like hugs, that's fine, because it's a quick, done. Well, with stuff like that, I will always either be posing, kind of, posing, or my hand is not touching them. My arm will be up here, and I'll be like doing stuff, my arm is doing the thing, that kind of stuff. That's just a protection thing I've learned as a woman who I do deal with an unfortunate circumstance. I have, unfortunately, been caught off guard. It was actually at my professional job as the sports mascot. A group of men were sitting at a table, and I had turned my back, which I will never let this happen again. They came up behind me and went like this around my waist and tried to pull me back. Well, in the momentum that they pulled me back, I tipped myself forward and broke free and continued on my way and paid them no mind. They catcalled me and everything else in between. It pissed me the fuck off. You do really, as a mascot, but also as a woman, as a mascot, be quick to be defensive. You really need to be physically, quick to move in the suit that you're in. I love Akira for these videos because I can kind of give you an example of things, and like I said, I do the movements and stuff, but something like that where their arm was here, in that momentum, I can push forward and I just keep moving. You have to be nimble in your suit. You got to know your suit in and out, because if you don't, you can get very seriously hurt. So, continuing, I'm kind of sidetracking, but not really. Women in sports, women in mascotting, all that good stuff. Unfortunately, ladies, we have this wonderful gift from our bodies every month. And yes, it can get involved with mascotting. So how do you deal with that? Well, it's easy. It really is. Honestly, I hate to say it, but physical activity does really help. It makes you really a lot more tired, and you're not going to be probably as active, but it does help the pain part. I will say my biggest advice, have pads or those overnight disposable little, basically like diapery things. Have those. Tampons if you use them. Have as much protection as possible. Have layers underneath. That's not going to make you overheat. That's a big thing. Don't overheat. But have that just so you're comfortable, you're not leaking anywhere. And please, if you're going to be mascotting, because if it is a job like mine where you have to be out there as much as possible, try to just either take it slow or take those really quick breaks to give yourself a second, fix yourself up and get on out there. But don't overextend yourself. If you have to tell someone, hey, not probably going to be as active tonight because, it's the time of the month. And if they're going to be an asshole to you, you can tell them to fuck off. Tell them I sent you. The fact that you're even still doing it while you're having your period, 10 out of 10. I'd give you a fucking 5-star rating on any of your little surveys, things, whatever, for your job. Okay? That is a big thing that people don't realize is when you have your period and you do this kind of stuff, oh, it's dreadful. Especially in the middle of summer when you're already dying and then you're dying and you feel like you're dying some more. Yeah, it's not fun. But please continue to always stay hydrated. Make sure you're taking those essential breaks, especially for stuff like that, because you don't want to overextend yourself. You never want to do that. Okay? All right. I had briefly mentioned about physically protecting yourself, but there's something that I've mentioned quite a few times as a mascot that is very important, and it's something I try to stress for anyone who wants to get into this work. It is a mind game. And if you're a woman and you want to get into this, it's a mind game. You need to be strong mentally before you put on that costume and go perform. Why do I say that? Because there are going to be people who don't fucking like you just because of your gender. It doesn't matter how much experience, how amazing you are when you are performing, they're not going to like you because you're a woman. You need to understand that doesn't define you. You define you. You define how good you are as a mascot by how you go out there. Because remember something very important. Only you know who you are. These other people don't know. They don't know if that's a girl or a guy or whatever. It doesn't matter. You have to be strong. You have to be. We have had people try to ruin us because we were women. It's upsetting. But guess what we do? We turn it around and we prove to them that women can be just as good, if not better, at this job than the men. Because there is a big subtle I say subtle, but it is a big difference between men that are mascots and females that are mascots that I have noticed in my time as a mascot at many different types of events with many different mascots of many different genders. Men are very much the performers, the entertainers, the over-the-tops. They're really not spending those times with every single individual kid. They're there to perform. They're there to be the best they can be and just do their thing, right? Well, then you have the women who tend to be a little softer. They still perform. They still entertain. They still do their best. But we're going to be a little more softer in our approach. We're a little more caring, a little tender. We kind of are more loving. Motherly is a very good word to put here, because I've worked with many females, and it is a very softer kind of approach than to just run up on you and be all crazy. Not saying that female performers don't do that, but they tend to be a little more tender, and other people tend to notice it. I have been to many events, and I am male and female characters. I do both. And even in the male characters, I get from my handler, they're asking if you're a girl. And honestly, when they're like certain people, like ushers or something in an arena or security or event, I just tell them I'm a girl. It doesn't matter. They are not going to ever know who I am. They're like, I knew it. They're very loving. They're very tender. They're very motherly. And, like, it is kind of cool, now that I think about it, how, like, different that approach is. Because there's nothing wrong with either approach. You know, the male approach is fantastic. The female approach is fantastic. I don't ever want to sit here and say that, like, oh, being a female in this job is so difficult. No, it's hard for both sides. I'm just explaining, you know, my side of all this. But I'm never going to put down my fellow mascots in any sense of the way. We all do a fantastic fucking job. We all pour our hearts into this. We go out there and we give you guys the best entertainment we can. It doesn't matter what's beyond the suit. And that's kind of where I want to wrap this up. Being a female in this line of work, especially with sports, is challenging. But it should be noted that it never does matter who is behind the mask. What always should matter is the memories that they're creating for your kids. For you, for your great-grandfather, who you don't know how much time he's got left, but that mascot spent 15 minutes with them. I did that, by the way. And they shook your hand and told you, you're a true American, which was the most interesting compliment that I, to this day, have ever received as a mascot. Because I spent time, 15 minutes, and I'm not lying, with a very elderly gentleman. He could not talk much. He was wheelchair bound. He was delightful. Because it was the end of the night for me. And I crouched down in the most uncomfortable way imaginable. My back was burning. But guess what? I didn't give a shit. I held this man's hands, just comforting him. And he was nothing but smiles. I was crying in the suit. And the family is crying. Everyone's crying. But this man looked at me like, and I'm not very much religious, but I was a gift from God. Taking some time with him. And it was no, skin off my nose, whatever the expression may be. I enjoyed it. It was nice. It was a very loving moment. And it was cute because I quick ran off and I signed a picture. And I had said, thank you for making my night. And I gave it to him, and his family lost it. They were crying. They're holding me. They're like, you're such a blessing. You're an angel. And then I got hands shaking saying, you're a true American. I didn't do that for anything besides, I was just being tender. But those people didn't know I was a woman. That's what matters, right? Those moments. And I already said that I was going to conclude this however long ago I said, but that's what's most important. As a mascot, we're not focusing on what's underneath. You don't know what's underneath here, and it doesn't matter. You know I'm a female because I've said it, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to pour my heart out into my performances, as I always do. And that my male counterpart is going to do the same thing. We should never really be looking at the gender of the suitor. We should be focusing on the hard work that these men and women are putting into to keep you guys entertained. Even when this team that you're watching is absolute shit, we're still excited and cheering and making sure you have the best experience possible. Because it's not only our job, but it's our passion. We want to make people happy. That's what we do. That is our job. To make people happy. And it should never matter who's in the suit, because guess what? At the end of the day, as long as you're happy, it should never matter.